Parshas Tazria-Metzorah is what we're going to name this Shabbos, and the title of this of our Dvar Torah today is called One Mouth or Two. So let's see where we're going to go with this. At the very beginning of Parshas Metzorah, the Torah describes the purification process of once you have tzarat, how to purify yourself after your tzaras goes away. Tzaras, as we know, is a spiritual, physical disease. In other words, it's according to our sages, it's not just a physical malady, but it's a manifestation of some kind of spiritual defect or flaw within the individual. And that's why the Torah says he has to go into seclusion and be away from the rest of the Jewish people. And then when he's sort of had a chance to meditate, contemplate, and heal himself spiritually, then the physical malady will go away and he can come back, but he has to go through a purification process. The Ramban and a number of other commentators ask why we don't have this disease today. It can't be because we're better than they were back then, right? It can't be that we're not speaking as much Lashon Hara as people spoke back then, or we don't have the same spiritual defects. The Ramban says that tzaras is a manifestation of the divine presence pulling away from the individual when the rest of the camp is infused with the Shekhinah. When the rest of the camp is infused with the Shekhinah and God pulls away from just me, that manifests itself physically. But if no one in the world has the Shekhinah, because the Shekhinah has departed, then there's not going to be any physical manifestation of that vacuum that's being created just because I've done something wrong. And that's why we don't have tzaras today. There are a number of different ways of explaining it, but that's what it is in brief. But the Torah says that when you're ready to come back, you have to bring atonement. You have to do something to purify yourself. So the Torah says at the beginning of chapter 14 in Sefer Vayikra, beginning of Parshas Metzorah, Vayidaber Hashem al Moshe lemor, Zos tihiyah Toras ha-Metzorah b'yom taharaso. This shall be the law of the Metzorah on his day of purification. V'huva el ha-Kohen. He's brought to the Kohen. V'yatsa ha-Kohen al michutz la-machaneh. The Kohen will come and investigate and sort of examine his skin condition outside the camp. And he'll see, he'll be able to verify that the lesion is healed. V'tziva ha-Kohen. So this is what the Kohen then says to do. V'lakach la-mitaher, that they will take for the person who wishes to be purified, shtei tziporim chayos tehoros. They have to take two kosher species birds, two living kosher species birds, ve'etz erez, a piece of cedar wood, ushni solas, a piece of thread, scarlet thread, ve'ezov, and some hyssop brush, which is a certain kind of plant, which has like a brushy kind of branch. V'tziva ha-Kohen, and then the Kohen will give the word, V'shachades hatzipor ha'echas el klicheres al mayim chayim. They will take one of the birds and slaughter it, and it'll be slaughtered over an earthenware vessel that it contains water. And then es hatzipor hachaya yikachosa. Then he'll take the remaining living bird, and then he'll take the eitz ha'eres. He'll take the piece of cedar wood. Ve'esheni hatolaas, and he'll take the scarlet thread. Ve'es ha'ezov, and he'll take the hyssop brush. And he's got them all bunched together. He's got this live bird bunched together in his hand with a piece of wood and a piece of brush. V'tavalosam, and he'll dip it into the earthenware vessel that has the water and the blood from the dead bird. Ve'es hatzipor hachaya bedam hatzipor hashechluta lamayim hachayim. And that's what he's supposed to do. And then v'hiza al hamitaher. And then he'll sprinkle. He's using the wood, the brush, and the living bird as his sprinkling brush, and he'll sprinkle the blood and water mixture on the person who's going to become purified. Where am I? Lost my place. He'll sprinkle it upon him 7 times. V'tiharo, and then he'll be purified. V'shilach es hatzipor hachaya al penei hasadeh. And then he shall release the living bird and let it fly away over the field. Flee, you're free, right? So go ahead, bird. You've got a little blood and water on your head. You'll clean it off as you fly away, and you're free. So that's the purification process. Now there's korbanos that he has to bring as well, there's sacrifices he has to bring, but this is the initial process. Okay? So what's going on over here? So Rashi tells us. Rashi tells us in source number 2, you have to take a kosher animal. So and then he says lefi shahanegaim ba'in al lashon hara, because the reason why people get saras is because they speak lashon hara. Shehu ma'aseh pitputei devarim. What is lashon hara? What is that? What does pitput mean? Anyone know what that means? It's chirping. Chirping, right? You chirp. You're chirping. You're just chirping noise. You're chirping words. Lefichach huskakula taharatot tziporim shemefatfetin tamid b'tziftzuf kol. That's what birds do. They're tweeting. Oh. Very good. Very good. They're tweeting all the time. Yeah, you got to take away the smartphone from the bird, so they won't tweet. And so therefore we purify ourselves with a bird that we unfortunately have mimicked through our lashon hara. And we have to learn to keep our mouths closed and not chirp and tweet as much as the bird. And that's the reason why. So the author, Rav Gansweig, was the author of Kitzur Shulchan Aruch in the 19th century, asked a very interesting question in his Torah commentary called Sefer HaPiryon, a very, very small sefer. And he said, I can understand why you have to shecht one of the birds, because you want to sort of silence the bird as sort of a representation of the need to silence yourself. But why take the other bird and release it and now say, you're free? Go live your life and continue chirping and tweeting. Doesn't that seem to be contrary to the whole message of restricting one's speech and not speaking lashon hara anymore? It's an interesting question, and he explains that there's an interesting Gemara. The Gemara in Maseches Chulin, source number 3. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak. Rabbi Yitzchak says, "My dichsiv ha'umnam ilaim." The word ha'umnam, according to Rashi, comes from the word umanut, which means your profession. Ha'umnam ilaim. Make your profession silence. In other words, try to train yourself in the art of silence, is what David HaMelech is trying to say. And tzedek tidaberun, but righteousness you shall speak. So the Gemara explains, ma umnuto shel adam b'olam hazeh. What should a person's profession be in this life, in this world? Yasim atzmo ki'ilein. He should make himself a mute. Yeah, try to be mute in this world. Silence is a virtue, right? Yochol af l'divrei Torah. But you might think that this is true even for Torah, which means, no, I don't want to say anything, because the Torah says that silence is a virtue, so I'm not going to discuss words of Torah either at the Shabbos table. We'll just eat in total silence. So therefore, Talmud Lomar, tzedek tidaberun. Therefore the Torah says tzedek, which is righteousness, the words of the Torah, that you should discuss. And this is sort of the dialectic that we have in all things in life, but it manifests itself greatly in the areas of speech. God gave us the most powerful tool, which is the power of speech. And we have to know how to silence that power when we're using it negatively. But at the same time, we can't completely silence it, because then we'll never accomplish anything great in life. And like Shlomo HaMelech says in Koheles, in source number 5, he says, Ki adam ein tzadik ba'aretz asher ya'aseh tov v'lo yecheta. Shlomo HaMelech said, there is no such thing as a righteous person in the world who can only do good and never do bad. Now, the Alter of Kelm asked the question, what do you mean? There's no such thing as a person who can never do bad. I can find plenty of people. If you wanted to live a life of never doing bad, it's very easy. Just lock yourself in a closet, have them slide the tray of food under the door, and you'll live your life that way. You'll never communicate with people. You'll never have any contact with anyone. You won't be capable of doing anything bad. But the key phrase is Asher Ya'aseh Tov V'lo Yecheta. If you want to be able to accomplish goodness in life, then invariably you're going to end up making mistakes. If you want to put yourself out there and take risks for goodness, then invariably you're going to make mistakes. There are plenty of people who are scared of ambition. They're scared of realizing their potential because they're worried. They're scared of themselves. I'm worried what all the damage that I may do in the course of trying to realize my potential and realize all the good that I may accomplish in life. Because along the way, I'm probably going to end up wreaking havoc and harming people in the course of doing all the good that I would like to accomplish. So Shlomo HaMelech has to reassure those people and says to them, you have to realize that it's impossible. Even the greatest of people, if you want to be able to accomplish greatness in life, invariably you're going to make mistakes. And it's almost a prerequisite for success is failure. There's going to be chait. Invariably you're going to end up messing up a large percentage of the time. But that's the human condition, and if you want to be able to accomplish good in life, you have to be prepared for that. And so that's the reason why, says the Sefer HaPiryon, is why the Torah tells us that you first have to dip the head of the living bird in the blood of the dead bird. There's a purification process where I messed up, I spoke Lashon Hara, I got saras because of it, and I've paid my price and I'm ready to atone and make it better now. Let me take the blood of the dead bird, which represents the past errors, the past mistakes of my Lashon Hara, and dip my living bird, which represents the potential for Torah speech, for the greatness that I can speak in the future, for the Torah that I would like to teach and study and share and discuss and increase in the world. And I first have to dip it into the blood of my past to make sure that I don't make the mistakes that I made with my mouth in the past. And the reason why you throw it out onto the field is because the field represents the place for righteous people. There's a Gemara in source number 6. It's a Gemara we just recently saw in the Daf Yomi. Darash Rava. Rava expounded. He says, "My dichsiv lecha dodi neitzei hasadeh." Come, my beloved, let's go out to the field. And what is that? What do those words mean in Shir Hashirim when God says to Israel, "Come, my beloved, let's go out to the field"? What's special about the field where we're going to frolic in the vineyards? Why? What is that a metaphor for? Lecha dodi neitzei hasadeh amar knesses Yisrael lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ribono shel Olam, that the Jewish people say before God, Master of the universe, Al tidineni ki yoshvei krachim, do not judge me among the people who dwell in the cities, the city slickers, I would say. Sheyesh bahen gezel va'arayot u'shvuat shav u'shvuat sheker. They're filled with all different kinds of immoral behavior. They steal. They're immoral in their marital life. They swear falsely in business, and they do all types of unethical kinds of dealings. You know, when you live in the city, you're on top of each other, and life just becomes very, very conflicted, and you end up doing some very unethical things. And therefore, Hashem, Neitzei Hasadeh, let's go out to the field. Bo ve'arecha talmidei chachamim she'oskim b'Torah mitoch hadecha. Come, Hashem, I will show you Torah scholars who sort of divest themselves of all of the trappings of the city life, and they live lives of privation out in the field. So metaphorically, in other words, you want to be able to, the imagery of sending that living bird out into the field is saying, I'm ready to leave that past behind that was the cause of all of the schmutz that came up in my speech. You see, you know, all of the conflicts and the aggravations that we have living in the big city. You know, living with different kinds of people who are the cause of so much stress and aggravation in our lives. I'm ready to go and out into the field and just, you know, sort of like almost like a hippie kind of thing, where you, like, I'm going to go live on a commune and just study Torah. That's what I want. That's what my life should be for the future. You know? Not that I'm advocating that, of course. I don't want to start any rumors. Yes, ma'am.
I'm curious, are there other examples where a purification involves the sin, so to speak?
Any example, yeah, where this, well, Yom Kippur is a good example, yeah, because we confess the sins of the people and we place them, so to speak, on the goat that we're sending out to Azazel. Yeah, as a matter of fact, there are a number of commentaries who create the connection between the goat who sent out to the wilderness and the bird here. But for our purposes, this imagery is not really connecting them so much, but it's sort of, basically you're taking your sin and you're learning from it instead of thrusting it away, but you're taking it with you. You're remembering your past. You're remembering the mistakes that you made of your past, and you're going to reinforce yourself and strengthen yourself because of your past mistakes. And there's that type of humility that's described by going out in the field is also represented by the Eitz Erez Ushni Sola'as Ve'ezov, the cedar wood. Rashi says, why do we have to take cedar wood? Because it's the tallest tree. And it reminds us that we spoke Lashon Hara because we made ourselves big and tall, and we were arrogant, and we looked condescended to other people. And the Shni Tolas Ve'ezov, those are two things which represent great humility. The Shni Tolas, the thread, literally Tolas means worm thread. So it represents the worm. It's a lowly creature, and Ezov is a low growth brush, represents lowliness, humility. So you put those together and you're sort of supposed to remind yourself that the cedar represents my past, my sinful past. The brush represents my humble future, going out into the field and so forth. So that's the imagery that we're conveying with the dipping of the live bird into the blood of the dead bird. But just one last thing, and this is sort of the zinger, is this Gemara that I want to leave you with, which is the Gemara from Talmud Yerushalmi in Maseches Brachos. It's source number 7. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai Omer. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai said, Ilu havina ka'im al Tura de Sinai, b'shaita de isyahavis Torah li Yisrael. If I was there standing by Mount Sinai at the time when the Torah was being given to Israel, to the Jewish people, havina mit be'ekume rachmana, I would have demanded from Hashem, the yitberi lebarnasha train pumin. This is all Aramaic. I would have demanded of God that He create man with 2 mouths. That God, from now on, you're giving us the Torah, change the anatomy of the human being, that instead of now only having 1 mouth, every human being should have 2 mouths. Chad dahavilai be'oraisa, 1 mouth should converse exclusively in Torah. V'chad da'avidlei kol sarchei, and the other mouth will converse in all other mundane issues. Chazar va'omar, but then Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai retracted, and he said, I was wrong. Uma in chadhu les alma yachol ka'im bei min dilturia delay. He says, look at the human being today. With 1 mouth, the world cannot survive his lashon hara. Ilu havin train al achas kama v'kama. So imagine if every human being had 2 mouths. Imagine how much worse life would be. Imagine how much more lashon hara there would be, because man would eventually end up not elevating his mundane mouth, but he'd end up corrupting his bad mouth. And I think that there's a lot of profundity in this medrash, in this statement by the Gemara of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. But one of the ideas that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is trying to get across is that there is a certain ideal that some people of religion feel is optimal, which is to create a complete separation between Kodesh and Chol, between holiness and the mundane. We talk about that. We do believe in distinctions between Kodesh and Chol. That's what Shabbos and that's what Kiddush and Havdalah are all about. Where we do have to carve out and set aside times in our lives and experiences in our lives which are holy, and to contrast that with the mundane. But you can't have a complete division, a hermetically sealed division between the two. Because if you completely divorce the holy from the mundane, then neither the holy nor the mundane will be able to survive. You can't say, I'll only be religious for 3 hours on a Sunday morning, and then Sunday afternoon I'll go and do whatever I want. I mean, that's sort of, some people's conception of Western religion is, I go to church or temple or mosque or synagogue for the 2 hours on Shabbos or Friday or Sunday, whatever my religion is, and then the rest of the time I'm purged. I can do whatever I want. And life doesn't work that way. HaKadosh Baruch Hu never meant us to have this complete division. And this is manifested by the mouth. The mouth, God only gave us one mouth. He gave us 2 ears because He wants us to listen in stereo. But He gave us one mouth because the mouth is responsible for both the holy and the mundane. And Hashem specifically does not want us to separate the two. And that's why you have to dip the living bird in the dead bird's blood, to show that as much as we might want to separate our Yetzer Hara and our Yetzer HaTov and, just completely pull ourselves apart, we're one person with one mouth, for better or for worse. And we have to learn how to live with the demons that dwell within us. We have to learn to live with the darkness, to be able to control them and to make peace with them, and to use them in some way. That's why the Torah says, Ve'ahavta Hashem Elokecha b'chol levavecha. The Torah says you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart. But it doesn't say levavecha in the normative way. It should say libecha, with all your heart. But levavecha means with your 2 hearts. And so what does that mean? B'shnei yitzrecha, with your 2 inclinations. You have to serve Hashem and love Him with both your Yetzer HaTov and your Yetzer Hara. You have to make peace with the fact that God put us together in conflict, and that's what life is. Life is conflict. You can't dissect yourself. You can't cut yourself in half and cleanly separate the good from the bad. We're all a mixture of good and bad, and that's the human condition. Yeah.
Aside from different Torah, there are so many other ways that you can use your mouth to console, to empathize, to uplift, to do so many things for other people with your mouth. I don't really see that the tweeting and the talking is the problem, because I know many people who have that inclination to talk a lot, but they use it for the good.
Sure, absolutely. I don't think Torah is just Torah study. It's sharing spiritual greatness with others through your mouth. I agree with you that speech is either when we say for Torah, it's a code word for greatness, holiness, spirituality.
No, but I mean,
mitzvahs.
Where Rashi says that it's because
prayer.
A bird that's constantly tweeting
Yeah.
or talking or chattering, there's nothing really wrong with that in and of itself, if you're using it for the right thing.
Yeah, but that's the whole point, is that when a person chirps a lot, then they're going to end up, you have to be very, very careful. The more you speak, the more potential liability there is.
I guess what I'm just trying to say is the goal is not to try to be as quiet as possible. The goal is to try to use your mouth as properly as possible.
Productively, yes, exactly. That's what we've been saying. Precisely. That's exactly, you got it. You hit it on the head. Right. Okay. Anything else? If not, have a great day.